You ever notice how people panic the moment life stops following their little script? They want predictability, safety, a story that makes sense. And then, out of nowhere, something happens. Something impossible to ignore. And suddenly you're told, you were chosen to receive this. For most folks hear that and smile like it's some shiny reward. But you and I, we know better. Being chosen, it's not always a blessing. Sometimes it's a shove into the unknown, a whisper from above saying, thank you. Now carry this. Here, and that's when you realize the truth. What you've been given isn't meant to make you comfortable. It's meant to wake you up, shake you, break the quiet little routine you've been hiding behind. Because only when everything feels uncertain do you finally see what you're capable of. Being chosen is rarely comfortable. People love the idea of being selected for something extraordinary, like it's a crown placed gently on their head. They imagine applause, admiration, a spotlight that warms rather than blinds. But the truth is far less romantic. Being chosen feels more like a jolt, a disruption, a sudden twist in the rhythm of your life. It drags you out of the familiar and drops you into territory where nothing behaves the way you expect. And that discomfort, that unpredictability, that's where things start to get interesting. You see, when people talk about being chosen, they picture a gift, a prize, something neat and polished. But life doesn't hand out velvet-wrapped packages. It hands out sharp edges, confusing signs, situations that make you question everything you thought you knew. Being chosen means you're being pulled out of the crowd, not because you're comfortable, but because you're capable of enduring more, understanding more, transforming more. And transformation is a messy experience. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel calm. It feels like someone tilted your entire world just to see if you can stand without falling. Most people cling to comfort like it's oxygen. They think if they stay still, the world will stay still with them. But when you're chosen, comfort becomes a luxury you no longer have. Suddenly, everything familiar starts to stretch and bend. The easy answers vanish, the old routines crumble, and you're left facing a challenge that feels too big, too heavy, too strange. And instead of asking, why me, you start realizing the real question is, why not me? Because deep down you know you weren't made for the background. People don't get chosen for comfort. They get chosen for growth, and growth rarely whispers. It shoves. That's the part nobody wants to hear. Comfort is warm, safe, predictable, but predictability dulls you. It makes you forget your potential. It convinces you that you've reached your limit when you're barely at the surface. Being chosen forces you to step into a fire you didn't start, a test you didn't request, and a moment you didn't plan for. And that's exactly why it matters. Comfort lets you sleep. Being chosen wakes you up. And waking up can be violent. It shakes your thoughts, rattles your calm, and pushes you into decisions you'd rather avoid. You begin to see the cracks in people, in systems, in yourself. You start noticing how fragile comfort really was, how quickly it disappears when purpose arrives. You feel exposed, unprepared, maybe even overwhelmed. But beneath that discomfort is a strange kind of energy, a spark. Because if life has selected you, dragged you out, set something heavy on your shoulders, it means there is something inside you that even you haven't met yet. People like to pretend they crave purpose, but purpose demands a cost. It demands your old fears, your excuses, your laziness, your illusions. And giving those up hurts. It feels like losing pieces of who you were. But that's the point. Being chosen reshapes you. It strips away the parts of yourself that were too small for the path ahead. It forces you to see the truth you kept avoiding. Comfort was never going to lead you to your potential. Only pressure can do that. Only discomfort forces you to become something new. And think about it for a moment. If being chosen was easy, everyone would rise, everyone would grow, everyone would lead. But that's not how the world works. Most people run from discomfort like it's a monster. They hide from responsibility, dodge the difficult moments, cling to the soft, temporary illusions of an easy life. But you weren't chosen to hide. You were chosen to step forward, to face something others would have collapsed under, to carry something heavier than you thought your hands could hold. And without that discomfort, without that pressure, you'd never discover the strength that was buried inside you the whole time. So the discomfort you feel isn't a sign you're in the wrong place. It's a sign you're exactly where you need to be. Because being chosen isn't about ease, it's about evolution. It's about stepping into a version of yourself that comfort could never create. And maybe that's the quiet secret behind the whole thing. Being chosen is supposed to unsettle you, shake you, stretch you, push you, until the old you cracks open and the real you finally steps out. Every gift carries a weight. People never think about that part. They only see the shiny surface, the excitement, the surprise. They imagine gifts as harmless little treasures wrapped in ribbon and kindness. But life doesn't hand out anything without a price. It doesn't give without taking something in return. Every gift has a shadow attached to it, a responsibility, a burden, a shift in who you thought you were. And funny enough, the bigger the gift, the heavier the weight. But people rarely notice the weight because they're too busy admiring the wrapping. You see, the world has this strange habit of giving you something the moment you stop feeling ready for anything at all. It hands you an opportunity, a challenge, a message, a burden disguised as a blessing. And when you hold it in your hands, it might feel warm, important, even divine. But then the weight starts to settle, slowly at first, like a whisper on your shoulder, then a little more until you realize this thing you were given isn't just something to celebrate. It's something to carry. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people only want the pretty part of a gift. They want the recognition, the praise, the moment where others look at them like they're special. They don't want the responsibility. They don't want the pressure. They don't want the late nights, the uncertainty, the sacrifice. They want the title without the task. They want the reward without the weight. And when they finally feel the heaviness of what they've received, they panic, they freeze. They start thinking the gift was a mistake, or worse, a punishment. But that's only because they never understood the truth. A gift isn't supposed to make you comfortable. It's supposed to change you. Every gift life gives you is a test. Not the kind you prepare for, with neat little answers or predictable outcomes. No, this test comes wrapped in confusion. It comes with pieces missing, instructions smudged, expectations unclear. You're expected to carry it without knowing exactly why you were chosen, and that uncertainty creates a pressure that cracks people open. Some crack and fall apart, others crack and grow through the cracks. The weight reveals which one you are. Think about people who receive power, talent, opportunity, love, trust, purpose. Everyone envies them, but nobody sees what it costs to hold those things without dropping them. Power demands discipline. Talent demands commitment. Opportunity demands bravery. Love demands honesty. Trust demands consistency. Purpose demands sacrifice. The gift may look beautiful from afar, but the weight becomes obvious the moment you hold it close. And yet, this weight isn't meant to crush you. It's meant to shape you. Because you don't learn anything from being empty-handed. You only learn from carrying something that challenges your balance, something that forces you to strengthen your grip, something that makes you question your limits. This weight becomes a sculptor, carving away the parts of you that no longer belong. The fear, the laziness, the excuses, the doubts. Every heavy gift grinds those down until you're left with something sharper, stronger, more aware. The strangest part is that gifts from life don't announce themselves politely. They don't come with a warning label. They crash into your world when you least expect it. They disrupt your routine. They destroy your comfort zone. They demand attention. They demand action. And you might wonder why you were the one chosen to receive something so heavy. Why didn't it go to someone stronger, smarter, more prepared? But that question misses the point. The weight is what will make you those thigh. You weren't chosen because you were ready. You were chosen so you would become ready. People always talk about wanting signs or blessings, but most blessings feel like burdens at first. They push you out of the shallow end and drop you into deep water just to see if you can learn to swim. And at first, the weight feels like something that will pull you under. But then something strange happens. You start adapting. You start finding balance. You start realizing the weight isn't only dragging you, it's grounding you, stabilizing you, teaching you, strengthening you in ways comfort never could. And once you start carrying that gift with a steady grip, you look back at your old self and realize how small you used to be, how limited, how fragile. And you understand that without the weight, without the pressure, without the challenge disguised as a gift, you'd still be the same person hiding behind the illusion of ease. The weight is what turns the receiver into someone worthy of the gift. Destiny doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't knock politely on your door and say, "Excuse me, do you have a moment?" No, destiny is far less patient than people like to pretend. It barges in, uninvited, unannounced, dripping chaos all over your neatly arranged plans. People spend their whole lives trying to organize everything. Schedules, dreams, futures, even their emotions. They think if they stay orderly, predictable, disciplined, destiny will respect their structure. But destiny isn't impressed by order. It doesn't care how prepared you think you are. It arrives when it wants, how it wants, and the moment it steps into your life, everything starts shifting like pieces on a board you didn't even know you were playing on. Most people fear that kind of intrusion. They don't want their comfort zone disturbed. They cling to their routines like a lifeline because routines make them feel in control. But destiny has a strange way of reminding you that control is just a polite illusion. You're not really steering the ship, you're just convincing yourself you are. And the moment destiny decides it's time, it grabs the wheel right out of your hands and turns sharply just to see if you can keep your balance. And if you can't, well, that's part of the process. People always talk about waiting for the right moment, waiting until they're confident, waiting until they're ready, waiting until the world gives them permission to rise. But destiny doesn't operate on their timeline. It doesn't care about perfection or readiness or approval. It doesn't whisper, it shouts. It doesn't wait, it pushes. And the ones who make something out of their lives aren't the ones who waited for permission. They're the ones who answered the push, even when their knees were shaking. And that's the thing about destiny. It doesn't pick the moment when your life feels stable. It doesn't appear when everything is going well. It tends to show up right in the middle of your chaos, when you're confused, uncertain, broken, tired, when your world is already wobbling. And that's what makes it so difficult to accept. People think destiny should arrive in a golden package, wrapped elegantly by fate, but most of the time it comes disguised as a problem, a challenge, a collapse, something that forces you to make a decision you weren't planning to make. And that decision becomes the turning point. Destiny loves turning points. It loves corners you didn't see coming. It loves dragging you into situations that stretch you, scare you, pressure you, until you crack open a version of yourself you never thought you could become. And you can't negotiate with it. You can't say, "Come back later, I'm busy." You can't say, "I'm not ready yet." You can't say, "Let me finish what I'm doing first." Des. Tiny doesn't wait. It leaves you with two choices: step forward or get left behind. And both choices carry consequences. What people forget is that destiny doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your fear. It doesn't care that you think you're not good enough. It doesn't wait until you feel. It arrives the moment life needs you to become strong. And that's exactly why people panic. They think they're being thrown into something too big, too fast, too heavy. But that's the trick. Destiny doesn't come when you're prepared for it. It comes to prepare you. It doesn't come when you're powerful. It comes to create your power. And here's the funniest part. People think they choose destiny. They think they chase it, plan for it, control it. But destiny chooses them. It marks them long before they realize they're being shaped for something bigger. They think they're making random decisions, handling random challenges, enduring random storms. But every chaos, every twist, every unexpected moment is part of a path that doesn't care about your permission or your comfort. It only cares about your evolution. Because destiny isn't gentle. It's not supposed to be. If it were gentle, you'd never change. And deep down, people know this. They can feel it, those moments when something inside them whispers that life is shifting, that something is coming, that the direction they were walking isn't the direction they're meant to end up in. And even though they try to resist, try to cling to the familiar, destiny keeps pushing, keeps tugging, keeps disrupting until you finally realize the truth. You were never meant to stay where you were. You were meant to move, to rise, to break out of the cage you didn't know you built around yourself. Destiny doesn't wait for permission because it knows you'd never give it. That's why it forces its way in. That's why it twists your path. That's why it interrupts your comfort with chaos and calls it an opportunity. It shows up not when you want it, but when you need it, even if you don't understand it yet. Uncertainty exposes your true strength. Funny how people spend their entire lives trying to avoid it, as if unpredictability is some kind of monster waiting under their bed. They want guarantees, assurances, neat little answers tied with bows. They want to know exactly how everything will turn out before they even take a single step. But that's not how life works. Life doesn't give you a roadmap. It doesn't hand out safety nets for every jump. Life prefers a bit of chaos. It likes watching what you do when the lights flicker, when the ground shifts, when everything you thought was stable suddenly feels like it's slipping right through your fingers. And in that moment of confusion, that moment when nothing makes sense, that's where your real strength finally crawls out of hiding. People think they're strong because they survived the easy days, because they managed the predictable, because they solved problems that came with instructions. But that's not strength. That's comfort doing a good job of pretending. Real strength shows up when you can't see the path anymore, when every step feels like a gamble, when fear sits on your shoulder whispering all the ways things could go wrong. Anyone can walk a straight line on solid ground. But let the path twist, let it shake, let it split in two with no signs pointing in any direction, and then watch who keeps walking. That's where you see the difference between people who only look strong and people who actually are. Uncertainty has a way of stripping you bare. It removes the masks you wear for the world, the masks you wear for yourself. When things get unpredictable, you can't hide behind your rehearsed confidence, your polite courage, your practiced smile. Your excuses fall apart, your pretend strength cracks, and what's left is the raw version of you that you don't show anyone. And that raw version, that's where the real power is. Not the polished, perfect, controlled character, no. The one trembles yet steps forward anyway. That's the part of you. That uncertainty forces to the surface bahar. And people hate that feeling. They hate being exposed. They hate not knowing. They panic when the future blurs, when plans fall apart, when life dares to pull the rug out from under them. They think uncertainty is their enemy, but it's not. It's a mirror, a brutal one. It shows you exactly what you're made of, without the filters and illusions you cling to. It reveals your instincts, your resilience, your resourcefulness. It tests what you do when the script burns and you're forced to improvise. And believe me, that's when the most surprising version of yourself steps onto the stage. Most people don't even realize how strong they are because they've never been pushed far enough to find out. They live inside their comfort zones like prisoners who think the walls protect them. But comfort hides your strength. It buries it under routines and expectations and habits. Uncertainty digs it up. It throws you into the unknown, and in that unknown you start discovering abilities you didn't know you had. You learn how to adapt, how to think quickly, how to trust yourself, how to endure the silence between what you lost and what's coming next. Uncertainty sharpens you like a blade dragged across stone. And the interesting thing is, once you face uncertainty a few times, something shifts inside you. You stop needing everything to be predictable. You stop waiting for instructions. You stop relying on guarantees. You start trusting your capacity to handle whatever comes. You start realizing that strength isn't built by knowing what will happen. It's built by surviving what you never saw coming. You start understanding that the very moments you once feared are the moments that made you who you are. Uncertainty isn't chaos designed to destroy you. It's chaos designed to reveal you, to peel back the layers you've outgrown, to break the limits you thought were permanent, to show you that fear doesn't have to be a stop sign. It can be a compass, pointing you straight toward the version of yourself that comfort never allowed you to meet. And it's usually the moment you feel the most lost, the most unsure, the most shaken, that you finally step into a strength you didn't know you were carrying all along. Pressure reveals who you really are. It's almost amusing how people pretend otherwise. They like to walk around looking composed, controlled, perfectly stitched together. They practice their smiles in the mirror, polish their confidence, rehearse their reactions. But all of that is just decoration. Thin, flimsy decoration, and nothing strips it away faster than pressure. Apply enough weight to anyone, and the mask cracks. The truth leaks out. The real version of them, the one they keep hidden from the world and sometimes from themselves, steps into the light, whether they like it or not. Most people fear pressure because they fear what it might expose. They're terrified of discovering they're not as brave as they pretend, not as strong as they claim, not as calm as they present. They build these personas, these little characters, to survive the world. But pressure crushes personas. Pressure wants the truth. It doesn't care about your carefully constructed identity. It wants to see what's underneath. It wants to see the instincts you buried, the strength you denied, the fears you ignored. And in that sense, pressure is honest. Far more honest than people are with themselves. See, when everything is easy, anyone can look confident. When life is predictable, anyone can look stable. Calm waters make everyone appear like they know how to swim. But toss them into a storm. Let the waves hit hard. Let the current drag them. Let their breath shorten. And suddenly you see what's real. Some cling desperately to the surface, panicking with every wave. Others start kicking, clawing, adapting, not because they're fearless, but because something inside them wakes up. Pressure flips the switch. It turns off the illusions and turns on the instinct. It reveals the fighter that comfort kept sedated. And here's the interesting part. Pressure doesn't just expose weakness. It exposes strength too, real strength. Not the kind that's loud or showy, not the kind people brag about. The quiet strength, the stubborn strength, the strength that only surfaces when life corners you and whispers, "Let's see what you really are." Under pressure, some people collapse, shrinking into the smallest version of themselves. But others grow. They sharpen. They ignite. They discover something raw inside them, something they didn't know they had until the moment demanded it. Pressure has no patience for pretending. It pulls out your truths violently, like ripping open a locked drawer. It forces you to confront yourself, your flaws, your hopes, your desperation, your resilience. It makes you see what you cling to, what you run from, what you stand for. And the moment everything tightens, when your heart starts pounding and your thoughts get loud, that's when you meet the version of yourself that doesn't care about approval anymore. That version only cares about survival, action, clarity. It shows you who you were meant to be all along, beneath the layers of expectations. People don't grow in comfort, they grow when they're pressed, when the world leans on them hard, when everything they thought they relied on starts slipping. Pressure pulls out capabilities you never used, thoughts you never explored, courage you never practiced. It forces evolution. It forces transformation. It forces you to decide whether you're going to break or reshape. And sometimes breaking is part of reshaping. Pressure doesn't politely ask you to improve, it demands it. Think about all the moments you're proudest of, the ones that shaped you, the ones that forced you to rise. None of them came from the easy days. None came from calm mornings or predictable routines. They came from moments when you were under fire, when you were stressed, when you were scared, when you were stretched past your comfort, when the situation felt too big, too fast, too complicated. Because pressure isn't just a test, it's a reveal. It shows you the strength you didn't believe in, the patience you never practiced, the grit you never acknowledged. And the truth is, people don't want to admit that pressure is necessary. They avoid it, dodge it, distract themselves from it. But deep down, they know pressure is the only thing that breaks the shell holding them back. It's the only thing that shows them what they can handle, what they can overcome, what they can become. Pressure is the mirror that doesn't lie. It strips you down until the real you is the only one left standing, breathing, deciding, acting. And that real you, the one revealed under weight, is the one you were always meant to meet. Not everything given is meant to feel good. Funny how people expect life to hand them presents wrapped in silk, ribbons, smiles, and applause. They want gifts that comfort, opportunities that flatter, challenges that stroke their egos. But the truth? Life rarely delivers that. Life has a sense of humor far darker than most are willing to admit. It hands out lessons disguised as pain, growth wrapped in struggle, rewards buried under fire, all designed to shake you awake whether you like it or not. And the first time you realize this, the first time you accept it, it feels uncomfortable. It feels wrong. But that's exactly the point. People think that good things should feel good, that blessings should bring warmth, security, happiness. But the most valuable things you ever receive will sting, will confuse, will challenge every notion you have about yourself and the world. They arrive in forms you might initially hate: a loss, a rejection, a responsibility, a burden, an opportunity that shakes the ground beneath your feet. And yet those are the things that carry the weight necessary to transform you. Comfort is easy, growth isn't, and the things life gives you to grow rarely come with comfort attached. The world trains us to avoid discomfort. From childhood, people learn to seek pleasure, avoid pain, run from difficulty. And that's understandable, isn't it? Pain is unpleasant, scary, exhausting. But growth, achievement, transformation, those things are never purely pleasant. They don't sit politely in your lap. They demand you step into situations that feel risky, unfair, or terrifying. They demand that you act before you feel ready, speak before you feel confident, persist when everything inside screams to quit. And that's the first lesson most people never learn. If it feels good all the time, it probably isn't shaping you into anything new. Some of the hardest truths are wrapped in experiences that hurt. Some of the heaviest gifts are disguised as problems. Some of the most important opportunities come as trials. Life isn't handing these things to punish you. It's handing them to expose you, to mold you. to pull you from the illusion that comfort equals safety or ease equals worth. The moment you receive something that makes your chest tighten, your mind race, your heart question, that is the moment your real work begins. That is the moment you step beyond the surface of yourself and into the unknown territory where potential lives. And most people panic at this stage. They want to push away anything that causes discomfort. They think they're being punished, singled out, cursed. They see struggle, and mistake it for failure. But struggle is the raw material of transformation. The things that burn, that shake, that terrify, they are not enemies. They are the ingredients of strength. The gifts that challenge you are the gifts that last. They leave scars, yes, but those scars are maps. They show you where you've been, what you survived, and who you're capable of becoming. Not everything given is meant to feel good, because feeling good isn't the point. Feeling good is a fleeting illusion, a temporary dopamine hit, a shallow comfort. What lasts is resilience, wisdom, courage, skill, awareness, clarity. And those are rarely pleasant in the beginning. They demand patience, endurance, willingness to lean into discomfort, to sit with tension, to act when everything around you feels unstable. That's why the most valuable gifts often arrive dressed in disguise, as chaos, as heartbreak, as challenge, as the very thing you didn't want, and yet without them, you'd never know the depths of your own capacity. Think about it. Every time you faced something that felt wrong, impossible, unfair, or heavy, you changed, you learned, you adapted, you survived. Maybe you cursed the experience, maybe you feared it, maybe you hated it, but it moved you, reshaped you, strengthened you in ways easy gifts never could. Easy gifts teach comfort. Hard gifts teach life. And the difference between the two is the difference between staying small and becoming something extraordinary. People avoid hard gifts because they want to feel safe, validated, happy. But the truth is, life rarely delivers safety when transformation is required. Life rarely delivers happiness when the moment demands growth. And if you only chase the things that feel good, you stay trapped in a tiny corner, blind to the bigger purpose, the hidden lesson, the strength waiting to be awakened. The things that hurt, confuse, challenge, and unsettle are the very things that shape you into someone capable of handling even more. They are invitations to step beyond comfort into power, to step beyond fear into freedom, to step beyond illusion into reality. Chaos often delivers the clearest message. Funny, isn't it? People spend their whole lives chasing order, craving control, pretending that life is supposed to make sense if you just follow the rules, if you color inside the lines, if you play it safe. They build neat little walls, routines, plans, schedules, all illusions that keep the unexpected at bay, and then chaos shows up. It doesn't knock. It doesn't wait. It barges in, uninvited, tearing apart the carefully constructed walls, scattering your plans like pieces of a broken puzzle. And in that mess, in that upheaval, in that raw, screaming confusion, the truth appears. Most people run from chaos. They panic, resist, claw at stability as though it were the only thing keeping them alive. But chaos is honest. Chaos doesn't lie. It doesn't hide its intentions, and it doesn't care what you prefer to feel. While order disguises weakness, chaos exposes it. While comfort lets illusions thrive, chaos strips them bare. And in that stripping, in that raw confrontation with the unpredictable, clarity emerges. A clarity that no routine, no plan, no promise of control could ever give you. Think about it. How often do we understand the depth of who we are in quiet, comfortable moments? The answer is rarely. The true revelations come when everything we relied on shatters, when the ground beneath us cracks, when people fail us, systems collapse, expectations crumble. That is the moment life stops whispering and starts shouting. And if we're awake enough, if we're courageous enough to watch, listen, and feel, we realize that chaos is a teacher, not an enemy. It forces perspective. Perspective forces honesty, and honesty exposes what we're really capable of. Chaos doesn't spare anyone. It doesn't choose politely, and it doesn't arrive when the timing is convenient. It pulls the rug out under kings and paupers alike. It drowns the confident, shakes the sure-footed, blinds the arrogant, but within the disarray, within the collapse of illusions, emerges opportunity. It's like the world screams at you, "This is real. Now act, now see, now become." And only the people who stare into the whirlwind long enough to understand it, long enough to move through it, can read the message that others never see. People hate that message because it's rarely gentle. It doesn't comfort, it doesn't flatter. It hits, it burns, it shakes, it disorients. And that's the point. Chaos isn't here to pamper your fragile ego. It's here to awaken the parts of you that lie dormant in safety. It's here to expose illusions, to reveal truths, to demand action when passivity feels easier. It forces you to confront what you've been avoiding, your fears, your limitations, your weaknesses, your potential. And in that confrontation, in that raw, unfiltered collision with reality, you find clarity. And clarity in chaos isn't pretty. It isn't serene. It doesn't feel neat or polite or planned. It's sharp, jagged, uncomfortable. It burns because it strips everything down to its essence. It shows you what you rely on that doesn't actually hold. It shows you who depends on illusion